This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have another double top 16 breakdown, this time for the Thursday Ultimate Cup and Sunday DC Cup at the Gen Con event this past weekend. And shoutouts to TAC for not only running the events, but also for giving me these lists to give to you guys. If you do appreciate all the hard work that goes into making and presenting these deck lists to you guys, I would appreciate right back a like and subscribe. It would just mean a lot for me. And there's just a lot of work, and I keep doing this for all these events. You'll see more breakdowns, I promise, if you hit that subscribe button. But real quick, I do not have one list specifically. It's Jesse Spencer's, which I'm going to guess for both events he got top 8 in both. It's the same, and I'm 99% sure he ran MetalGarurumon. If that's wrong, I'll make sure to update the document for you guys. And I've reached out to him, and we'll see if this video gets out to him, but I'm 99% sure it's MetalGaru. And but regardless, we have so many different archetypes in these cups, and like this is one of the first events for the BT9 meta, which is different, and also ours is a little bit different because we do have a little bit of a ban list, specifically more of like the yellow hybrid side than I think the blue hybrid side. But we had on Thursday 3 Alphamons, 2 D Reapers, with one of them taking the event, 2 MetalGaruru, 1 Imperialdramon, 1 Mastemon, a WarGreymon, a Commandramon, a Grandis, a Gaiomon, a blue hybrid, a security control, and an armor rush. And then on the Sunday side, a little bit more condensed here, but we did have 4 Alphamons, 4 MetalGarurumon X, 3 Imperialdramons, 1 red hybrid, 1 taking it, 1 Beelstar, 1 WarGreymon X, a Commandramon, and a D Reaper as well. So we do have 14 specific lists to go over. It's just the top deck, that top placement of an archetype between the two events going through it. And we're going to start off with the first place on Thursday, Brandon's D Reaper. Starting off with Brandon's first place D Reaper list from the Thursday Cup, we do have probably one of the most basic looking versions of D Reaper I've ever seen, which is in no way an insult because it won the event. Like, this is such a strong deck when it works, and I think, like, especially when people aren't expecting Mother as much, you can do a lot of cool things with it. So obviously the big adds to this from the set are the Death Xmon, just being able to get like a generic board clear that you can just hard cast and do pressure with late game, as well as the X antibody to kind of ramp up your plays with the with your Mother stacks at time, which is kind of nice. There's nothing else. So there's no Starmons, there's no like color splashes, nothing else besides that. And also just running the Horn Striker, which is a really interesting add. It's just when you have a Mother D Reaper in play, this gains Rush, which is a 7 cost, which means you can drop it down to like a 2 or 3 cost, and then you can attack something as on top of that, which you do get the bonuses from the Searcher too. So it's kind of like just a mini attacker in a lot of ways, but that's the deck. Like, obviously most of the deck's cost is just the Death Xmon, and then you have like a $20 bill to get the rest of this. But that's how this works. Like, this is how D Reaper works, and it's in such a weird spot right now after being, again, not very popular in the last month after its debut. People are saying, oh, it was overhyped, it's not doing months, and then it won 2 events. It won this one as well as the Otacon regional the week prior. So I think it's a good choice for BT9. It obviously, a lot of people are divided on what their thoughts on D Reaper, but it wins events, dang it. So it has to be kind of good, and congrats to Brandon again for their finish with it. Next up, we do have Mario's Red Hybrid, and again, this is the same list, unless I did it wrong. Was he got on the Saturday regionals, he got 2nd place with, and as I said in my previous video too, I think this is a moderately good meta call for where it was. I think a lot of decks are just in this OTK format, and a lot of decks just want to put an ADP to get around all these security options that trigger and everything else. So why not just play the deck that has the ADP in archetype already with the Alphamon as well? So being able to do that, I think, is good. Being able to get the Ancient Gray, and like, this is just the most aggressive OTK list I think still in the meta, that there were so many decks that were running blockers, and since Imperialdramon's not in the meta as much, and like Armor Rush is sorta in the meta but not as much, like McNally kind of stopped this on a lot of ways. But since that doesn't exist anymore, and since there's not like a lot of recovery either and that kind of stuff, I think it was a good choice. And obviously it won 1st place on Sunday as well as 2nd place on Saturday. So congrats to Mario for their finish there. Next up, we do have Imperialdramon by Daniel. And I know I just said that it's not in the meta anymore, but there's still some good finishes with it. And I know this is still just a basic EX2 version of the deck. There's nothing from BT9, it looks like, that was added for it, but that is totally fine. Like, this was the best deck, one of the best decks in a lot of people's eyes in the format. If you're able to just make your chain of going into the XV and then play the Stingmon, go into Imperialdramon, you get so many jamming swings and you get a lot of pressure for not a lot of setup, and you get a lot of card draws from the Stingmons as well as from the Demi Vmons, as you know, everything else. There's just so much pressure this deck can do, and if you can go into a dragon mode and just kind of repeat the process again, you just kind of win the game automatically. So it's also a deck that you can run at Megadeth, which a lot of kind of decks do suffer against. It's probably one of the best security options right now. It is a 5 cost, it's a little bit cheaper. Hitting into security is fantastic, and it does push things back to hand, which sometimes is not the best, but I think for, by and large, Megadeth is a threat in this meta, and so being able to run a deck that just can run it no problem, I think, is a big boon for this as well. So congrats again to Daniel for their finish with Imperialdramon. I think more people will be coming back to Imperialdramon once their, the BT9 kind of stuff is fizzled out and they've realized that they just want to go back to this guy, and I think it's going to do super well there. Next up, we do have David Lago, second place, MetalGarurumon X, and I think this is a deck that is on the rise. There's a lot of good things with it. I do just like the fact that you get to use these Garurumon promos, which I've pretty much had forever, and I used them for like one tournament and I haven't used them since, so it's really cool to be able to get these out of the box and start using them again. And this is just like a really great line that you're able to go up to. A lot of just great swings, and just the fact that the Garurumon X antibody does protect it from battle, which means that if you attack into security with something, it will protect it as long as you trash 2 of the same. So it can be it in itself, or you're able to do like the Goblimon X on top of a Goblimon. You are able just to do a lot of protection there. I will say 13 rookies is a little bit low, but it's obviously did the chance for you there. This is also a mulligan format. I don't think I've mentioned this so far, but the cup formats are both mulligan formats, so being able to do that is quite nice. And then running the 3 X antibodies and the 3 cool boys as well. I really like X antibody in a deck that can abuse it, and I think this is definitely a list that can do that. So again, congrats to David for their finish there. And MetalGaru, I think, is doing a little bit better than a lot of people are doing and thinking, and I think it's pretty much on pace with Alphamon, at least with just how many tops has been getting in these events from these past couple of weeks. So again, congrats to David. And next up, we do have Patrick Good's Mastemon, and this is a deck that I think has fallen off just a little bit since that, and it doesn't, like, even looking at Patrick's build here, it doesn't really use a lot of the new. It doesn't use the Daynemon, or however you say it. I'm never gonna say that name right. And but there are a couple like tiny choices, like Mycomon is able to play from security. It's also a purple yellow, which is nice. It's also on deletion. If it has 2 or more colors, you get to gain 2 memories, so that is like a really good inheritable effect. Gaiamon's so good. We also do have the vicious mode here too, has the same inheritable effect, but also on play or when digivolving, you may trash 1 card in your hand. If you trash a purple card, delete 1 of your opponent's level 3 Digimon. If you trash a yellow card, 1 of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 3k DP. So like a lot of different ways to interact with your opponent, and also just get cards into your trash, which means you can abuse them later with your Mastemon effect. Like sometimes like you just need that Chaosmon in there, and sometimes like you just don't have anything off your Flame Hellscythe to play early game too, so being able to do that I think is quite nice. And there is the new Tamer with the Myco, so on play rooftop 3, add 1 purple or yellow Digimon among them and then trash the rest. And then also, all turns when you have a 2-color purple yellow Digimon, you may suspend this Tamer to gain 1. So it's on play, which means that you can play it off the Mastemon, which means you can get like a little bit of your memory back to it. It has to be purple yellow, but it can help you there in a couple of ways. So I do like that tech there. Sometimes you just like hard cast this Gaiomon and you're fine with it, and you do got a lot with it, so I think it's a good call. So congrats again to Patrick for their finish. And then next up, we do have Momin's WarGreymon X, and this is a list that I don't know, like red aggro is always going to compete about which variant is the best, and I've been really falling in love with this WarGreymon X in the sense that it's very, very oppressive if you're able to do very well with it. I think it's been consistently getting tops events around events for this past week, and there's just some crazy stuff you can do with it. Obviously, you make your perfect antibody stack, you can go into this WarGreymon X. And I've learned the hard way that when a card is removed from the opponent's security stack, you get to gain a memory. It's not a once per turn. So if you get this like 2 or 3 checks, then you get 2 or 3 memory back for every check you hit, which is absurd. Being able to go into your pieces is really good. And this Greymon X Antibody is such a good card. It is fantastically good for this archetype. Not only is it able to do some funny things where you can digivolve on top of itself, like the started Greymon, to just have a security attack +1 out of nowhere, which is really nice, but being able to get that protection on your guy, like this is like one of the best protections in the game. And it's very strong, especially if like you go into an Omnimon on top of it or something. There's a lot that you can do with it. So I once you get the stack on, and like I don't know, red's just really consistent right now, which is very scary in a lot of ways, and it's really cool to see. So congrats again to Momin for their finish, and I think WarGrey X's, I would say, even though Ancient Greymon did win the event, I still think WarGrey X is probably one of the premier, if not the best, kind of red aggro decks that exist right now, and I think we're going to see more of this in the next couple of weeks. Next up, we do have our 4th place Alphamon. So this is Tommy Toe's 4th place one from Sunday, and this is the top placing event, or one of the 2 events. And I don't know, I would almost assume like Alphamon would be a little bit better on a Mulligan's format, just because you don't like to run a lot of rookies. And like once you start going off with this deck, you just draw so many cards. You get so many dang searches. The fact that Cool Boy lets you find a lot of your pieces, the fact that you can do that with Black Memory Boost too, being able to run Breath of the Gods also to protect your big boys. And like you just like, if you give this deck like 2 memory and they just have a Durorumon, or Durogramon, and like a Cool Boy or 2 already set up, like you just will lose to a level 6 on that same turn. There's just so much ways to go up your stack, get the pieces you need, get a lot of memory back for doing it, and it's very impressive. So I think Alphamon is probably still the best deck in the format. Even though like it only got 4th at like between the 2, that was its highest placement, I think it's not going anywhere. And you guys already know and probably have opinions on this deck, and it's very good. That's the opinion to think about. So congrats again to Tommy for their 4th place finish there. Next up, we do have Ari's Commandramon, and this is a deck that I am pleasantly surprised about in this format. This is something that I keep, I'll quick antidote. My Yomi loves playing Commandramon. She loves it and she wants it every format, and she's like, build me a Commandramon list. So I'll build it, she'll play it for a couple weeks, and she'll say, it's not good enough, and I'll put it back, I'll unsleeve everything, and then the next format and I have to do it again. And so I did that for this format, and it's good. It's honestly, it's very, very good, and it's probably one of the premier kind of aggressive decks. It is kind of like the Rookie Rush Plus that it's been wanting to be for such a long time, and I think it's just a combination of just how many good Commandramons we've have, and just like a lot of like small little toolbox items that Black has in its arsenal. So obviously you play a lot of Commandramons. You do play 16 in this list. You do play a couple of the other rookies. Chinkurumon Insecurity can sometimes just win you the game if you hit it. Like this is some very scary security that you're afforded to run in this deck, which is really absurd. We shall have the Hagugarimon as well. We have the Commandramons, and then also the Gorbomon, because we do have this Kazu Tamer, and I love this Tamer in this deck. This Tamer is so good for us. So start of your main phase, if you Digimon a cyborg with machine and trait, which all the Commandramons are cyborgs, you get to gain 1 memory, and then also when one of your Digimon with cyborg or machine and traits becomes suspended, you may suspend this Tamer to draw 1 and then trash 1 card from your hand. This is on all turns, so if there's some like Grandis stuff you get to do, you can do it. But getting the cycle is fantastic, and also being able just to pitch a card which can be a D Brigade, which means that your Dark Dramons are 1 cheaper, is I think actually very good. We do also have the Death Xmon, which is not terrible just to hard cast on your opponent if they try to set up a bunch of blockers, or even just digivolving on top of a Dark Dramon if you need to do it for a little bit cheaper. It's the cheesier version of that version, but you can totally do it. Alternate Flare is such a good card in a lot of decks, though I will say it is kind of stunted by the fact that X Antibody makes some really big stacks. So you can like use Ultimate Flare on a level 6 and it'll still be a level 5 sometimes. Iron Fisted Onslaught also can just get rid of a bunch of dudes, especially like if your opponent only has 1 big stack, which is usually the case for this format. And then Pride Memory Boost, as long as it hits, is it's really, really good. It's kind of like a Nokia that lets you play for free, and the fact that this lets you play from the top of your deck in a deck that doesn't get a lot of cycle or a lot of card draw inherently because you don't do a lot of digivolving is a really big boon. So I like this deck, and I think you're going to see a lot more of it, and it's surprisingly strong sometimes. Sometimes it just sets up and you can't really do anything about it, and it just kind of wins, which I was not expecting going into this format, and I'm still kind of pleasantly surprised about all that. So congrats again to Ari for their finish there. And then next up, we do have the 7th place Grandis from Jonathan. So I think Grandis is a deck that is not performing, I think, as well as a lot of people were thinking, which is fine because I think it had a really high bar to reach. I think Alphamon definitely hit that bar, but I think Alphamon or Grandis is a little bit not lackluster. I think it's still good. I think it's still a good deck that obviously can top and can win, but I don't think it's the big threat that immediately people were thinking when they saw this at first. But obviously a lot of good things in this deck too, being able to go into the Grandis for very cheap. The Okuamon promo is still an absurdly good card, being able to do a mini ice wall on your opponent's turn just by digivolving up and getting some memory reduction to go into your chains is good. And then also choosing to go with the red hero. So when you attack with the Digimon that has Gaiomon, this can't be the right one. This is okay. This can't be right. Is it just like the cheap red one? No way. No, this has to be the wrong one. This has to be, it was supposed to be probably the 4 one. I'll fix that in the actual sheet, but this has to just be the 4-drop hero, not the 3-drop one here. But I like just being able to run this to run the delicate plan, I think is a bold choice. I understand why. I'm not sure. Let me know if you guys are on the delicate plan kind of train with this deck. I just don't think it's sometimes clunky enough in a deck that sometimes gets a lot of clunky stuff with it, and that just seems bad sometimes. But I don't know. I'm obviously not getting top 8 at tournaments with this deck, so what am I supposed to say to that? But anyways, that is the list, and congrats to Jonathan there. Next we have Tyler with a Beelstar, with the first Beelstar top in the format, which I'm super happy to see. And this is I really do appreciate the Beelstar matchup. It's super fun. There's a lot of cool stuff with this deck in general, and running with a couple of new things. So we do have like the Gazumon X, which is kind of new, like really good for like early digivolving in on top of itself to get a trash 3, which is really nice. We do kind of have the usual suspects of Gaiomon, Promote, Scatter Mode, Ogremon, and also the Dobermon too. So on deletion, trash top 3 cards of your deck, then return 1 purple Digimon or Chain Mode from your trash to their hand. So that is kind of nice for us there. Does get a lot of trashing in there. Beelstar, of course. And then we do have, again, Death Xmon being a new toy for purple in general. You can digivolve install Beelstar or just hard cast it. It's a good play there. And then from here, just all your 7 options. The Deathclaw, Calling from Darkness, still a busted card. And then you are running the blue option too with the Kiroshiro, with the Kikaitis Breath being able to bounce anything that's not affected by Breath of the Gods, which is quite nice as well, or has the Greymon X underneath it too. So I really do like Beelstar. I'm happy to get a top 8, and congrats again to Tyler for their finish with it then. So next up we do have Nathan's Gaiomon, and this is again another, I don't know, like I went into this format thinking that there are just so many decks that weren't going to be viable because they were going to be locked out by Alpha and Grandis, and that could be the case a month from now. But right now there's just so many fun builds that are existing, including this Black WarGreymon upgrade with the Gaiomon, and I really like this archetype in general. I think there's a lot of strong things with it, and just kind of compounded with the fact, like I really like the red build, especially with the Greymon X antibody that gets so much protection for your stacks, which is just absurdly good. And you can do some stuff with like the MetalGarurumon going into the X antibody, the Gaiomon pretty much fixing what the decks I think was missing too. Sometimes you just need a really good blitz on top of the MetalGray to swing into something inherently, and this does have a generically good matchup against D-Reaper because you can just attack over the big mother with this, the combination of the MetalGray and like the Gaiomon or the Black War-Gray, or the, and then wait, I guess what, the hero inheritable as well, or just the plus 2k here, and then the inheritable off your Agus and any of the eggs, because you are running a 2-3 split here. I do also like the 1 tech and X antibody. I am surprised you're not running the Cool Boy with this though. I would almost add that if you're playing, like Nokia is fine, don't get me wrong, but if you're running the X antibody already, and I would probably try to tech in at least 1 or 2 Cool Boy. I think that would kind of help out the deck a little bit, but I really like this deck. I think it's super cool, and I'm happy that it is doing super well. So congrats again to Nathan there. Next up, we do have a blue hybrid. We thought it was gone. I thought it was gone, but this is Noah's blue hybrid list that he was used to place 10th place on Thursday. So obviously this is more of the Magna build, especially since you can't be like the aggressive source with Tommy as much, since you can only run one, which is kind of understandable. But this can still just do a lot of damage too. So when attacking moves, return one card with hybrid and traits from the evolution cards to your hand. Return one of your opponent's Digimon at the same level as the return card. Also trash all evolutions of that Digimon in your turn. Once return, when an effect adds a card to your hand, you may unsuspend one of your Digimon. So this just lets you do a lot of attacking and unsuspending and everything, especially since you're able to go on top of this. And also when an effect adds a card to your hand, you gain one memory, then this Digimon can't be blocked for the turn. So you do get like a bunch of additional effects with this, which is quite nice. And yeah, I mean, blue hybrid I think is still good in some regard. Obviously it's still topping. I don't think it's as oppressive as it used to be, or at least it's not as good in the meta, but it's still, I don't know, like if it's still can top an event like this, especially with as many great players as we had then. I think that just kind of shows that, yeah, maybe Tommy to 1 still was kind of impactful. And I don't know, I'm done with blue hybrid in a lot of ways, so I'm okay with it being at 1. It's nice to see it moonlight every once in a while with these top 16 finishes, and we'll see if it gets any more for the rest of this format. But still, congrats to Noah for the finish there. Next up, we do have Fernando's security control, and I think security control is in a weird spot where it does have a lot of ways to like potentially get and disrupt all these big OTK decks, but there's not a lot you can do on it sometimes. Like sometimes you just play for a while and you still just lose, and it just, I don't know, like you have to have like really good sequence security, and you're losing a lot with these security decks. You don't have the Jet Sophie like you used to. You only have like 1 reinforced memory boost, so there is some kind of downplay, but there is some cool stuff. I think the Gaiomon is such a good tech in this, since a lot of these decks do like just raising a big boy in your raising and then raising it up to do something. So if you have the Gaiomon, you just kind of sit there and your opponent has to raise their guy up to not, you know, be able to start doing something with it next turn, and then you hit them with a Chaos Degrade and then it's gone, and they have to do that again. So I do like that interaction, and I think that's cool. I do like the addition of like the Izzy is a really interesting choice, so you can play the Ultimate Flare, which again I think it gets around a lot of destruction, but again, if you make a really tall X antibody stack with a bunch of things, Ultimate Flare is not going to be as impactful as I think it has been previously. And like the Mimi and the Karis I think are good, and the Viximon is such a good egg when you're doing this. The only surprise is I'm surprised there's no like Salmon X antibody in this build. I would almost say like just run 2 of those just to get some extra rookies and potentially get some more cycle if you need it, but it's still doing super good. And I do not want to play against this deck. It seems really obnoxious, and it seems frustrating if they have that good security. But again, congrats to Fernando there. And to end the video, we do have 1 armor rush. We couldn't have a video with me without an armor rush, and this is Ezequiel's armor rush that was 16th place on the Thursday. Almost got it. So I really do like armor rush, and I think this is a pretty standard build. Some interesting tech choices are the XVmon, which just when digivolving unsuspend 1 of your level 4 or lower, so you can swing with Vmon, and then XV for 2 and restand it, which is quite nice. You could also just like swing with Flamedramon, and then you use XVmon to restand it, and if it has the Vmon underneath it, you could get some extra value there, which is quite nice too. The Paladin mode is such an interesting add too, just a big boy that you digivolve for 7 on top of your X antibody. Honestly, at this point, I would almost say that you want the Merciful mode in this deck instead of the Paladin mode of the Omnimon, but this is still just a very cool card there. One of the Awakening of the Golden Knight, I think a lot of people are, you know, flip-flopping of how many of these are armor textures worth it again, or something like that, and then whatever kind of variant of these here. I will say it's interesting to see that there's no Hammer Sparks, but instead 4 memory boost in this deck, and I think blue memory boost is a really good card in a format where opponent's not trying to OTK you left and right, where you can just kind of hit the, you know, they chip damage a lot of the times and they can hit this. But in a format where, again, like the OTKs are more prevalent, I do like the Hammer Spark a little bit more, but being able to find most cards in your deck by playing this and then helping set up your next turns, I think is very valuable there. But that is going to be it for this breakdown. Again, if you guys made it this far, you better hit that like and subscribe button, because you heard me talk about Digimon for like 20 minutes, so you must like something that I do, and I really do appreciate all the support and everything else you guys do for me. So again, this is going to be it. Thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it.